Okay, so now let's talk about how to set this unit up. First thing we'll do is Sonar, because that's where most people have all their questions. So on our Sonar screen, we'll go into our menu, we'll go to Settings, and we'll go to Sonar. It's very important that this is the first setting you do. You can select all these different fishing modes. Now, every setting we make here on out will be saved under this fishing mode. Personally, for the bass fishing I do, I'm going to select shallow water. This is better for anything less than about 60 feet of water. If you're going deeper than that, definitely take a look at one of the other ones. Around 100 feet or less, freshwater is going to be your best setting. So for the sake of this, I'll set it to shallow water mode. So we'll come back to our Sonar screen here, where we have our main Sonar menu. Personally, I like to run my unit with a auto depth range turned off, and I'll just set it to the maximum depth range that I'll be at for that day. What I'll then do is use the zoom feature, where I can zoom in and out, and I use my zoom right up to the top. So as I come shallower, I'll just zoom in and out. If I really want to zoom in tight to bottom structure, that's when I'll go beyond the beyond the 4 times zoom and use up to the 8 times zoom available on this unit. Frequency, again, is personal preference. For the most part, if you're bass fishing, you're going to be on 200 kilohertz or high chirp. If you're doing anything like trolling or possibly just deeper water fishing, the 83 or medium chirp will be better options for you. In our advanced menu, I like to turn the noise rejection off and surface clarity off. This will clutter the screen a little bit, however, it will give you much better marking. Scroll speed and ping speed, that will be personal preference. I like to speed the chart up just a little bit. I go to 2 times on the scroll speed. Ping speed set at max, I leave that at max. The other thing I like to do is put my unit in manual mode, where I have full control over the sensitivity. We'll turn the auto off as well. And now I can set this how I prefer. Personally, this is about where I would have my unit for most fishing applications. This is going to give me the greatest fish detection, but I'm not going to have too much clutter. If I set it too high, my screen's cluttered, I can't see what I'm looking at. If I set it too low, I'm not going to mark any fish. So right around here is where I'd recommend you set it. Colorline is something you can set to your preference. You can set it so your bottom will show different hardnesses. The yellow is going to be a harder signal, and then if you come into a bottom that looks similar to this, you're coming into a weaker signal. And this is the one downside to using ranges on your own. Your bottom will lose, so you may have to adjust that throughout the day. So back to the color line here, another school of thought is to turn that up. It's where your bigger fish targets will have yellow readings in them. The view, that's completely up to you. The nice thing you can do is when you zoom in, we can have a split screen zoom, and this here is just the simulator starting over again. So now I can have one panel zoomed in, and my zoom is right between these bars, so I can watch the full water column here, but zoom in on the bottom on this panel here. This is great if you're doing a lot of vertical fishing. You also have bottom lock, where it'll keep the bottom in the range if you're doing a lot of trolling with cannonballs, where you're fishing right near the bottom. That's a good feature to have. It also does have a flasher, but with these units, if you are going to be using it for ice fishing, you're better off to stick with the full chart. The other thing you have here is your color palettes. Personally, color palette number 1 is the one I would recommend. There's quite a few here. And again, when you start to choose these color palettes, you will have to adjust your color line. This is all personal preference, though. You can select whichever one you like. Temperature graph, you're going to have a temperature graph on the screen that will update as the day goes on, between 45 and 60 in this case, and you'll see that as it's changing across the screen. Depth line will give you a line across the bottom, which is the true depth. If you're fishing weeds, this sometimes can be helpful. Personally, I like to turn this off. I do turn my Amplitude Scope on, and this will give me a flasher type display. So you can kind of keep an eye on this, and then that's going to be your instant sonar return. And then when the fish comes onto this chart here, it'll start to draw the full picture. Fish ID, you're going to want to have turned off on a unit like this, you're definitely going to want to learn how to read the arches in order to give you the greatest detail on the sonar. So that's a brief setup on the sonar. You can fine tune your settings as you wish and as you're fishing, but that's going to get you in the ballpark to have a unit perform very well out of the box.